I mean, I feel like no matter what, if you're a kid, you are like, if you know the parents in the crib, you like, you ain't all loud. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you, I don't know. All right, folks, this is the 811 Crew podcast. And if you're 50 plus, if you're a grown ass man or woman, you're looking to live your best life. If you've loved and lost, been hired and fired, traveled and lived life in general, you're trying to live your life to the fullest, this is the safe place where we're going to discuss how you do that. I'm Jason Turner.
And I'm Ulysses Glenn, better known as Slugger.
That's right.
And we're here for the 811 Crew.
Now, 811 Crew, a lot of folks from the first couple episodes have asked, how do we get to the 811 Crew? And it's August 11th is our joint birthday.
Which is coming up, and we do accept gifts.
Absolutely.
Yes, we accept gifts. If you want, I can send you my Cash App.
I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah. People do it all the time on social media. People will put their Cash App for their birthday. I'm like, really?
So what you're saying is we accept tips.
Okay. Tips,
we
cash.
accept tips.
Right.
Tips could be how we could do the show better. Tips could be examples that we are doing the show very well.
I'm going more with the money tip.
Oh, with the money. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going with straight money.
All right,
like
great. Well,
for my birthday.
Well, you know what? I think I'll take tips, any way we can get it. Right. Actually, anybody who's engaged, let's do it.
You share yours, I won't share mine.
Well, I appreciate that.
Right.
Well, so today we're going to really talk more about new rules, right?
The new rules.
We're over 50. Things are different. I mean, every decade, right? When you were in your 20s, you saw things, 30s, 40s. 50s, we're in the second half of the game right now. What kind of rules can we talk about that really change? What are the rules in operating over 50, Slugger?
Well, first, one of the first things is that we're not our parents' 50.
Oh,
that's the first thing. So we're not our parents' 50.
What is our parents' 50? Tell us, what is
that? Well, my parents' 50, I think my parents have been 50 since they were 20. So they really matured early. Like, they were mature. They didn't drink. They didn't smoke, anything.
Wow.
No.
Growing up, there was you had alcohol in that house in the Winnebago, or maybe not in the Winnebago.
But no, we would have, because people would come over. And so my parents would have liquor for them, but they don't drink it all. My father doesn't drink at all. My mother will order drinks that go to waste at the restaurant. Like, she'll order a pina colada and say it's too strong.
Wow.
And never.
So I'm guessing that the Get Live neighborhood parties may not have been at your house. I mean, or am I wrong?
No, they were there when my parents weren't home.
Oh.
Right,
that means Slugger was having a party.
Right. When my parents weren't home, because the other part we forgot is that I had a pool. So
wait. Stop. Wait a minute, stop. I swear, every episode I learned something new. I mean, we talking about house rules, but you had a pool. Okay, good. What are the rules for the pool? That's really good.
Well, the rules, I found out one of the rules was that people had to have on clothes. I found that out later, after the neighbors called my mom at work in the middle of the day.
To say that people didn't have on clothes.
Right. So that was a rule. And And so that then got me grounded from having people over for the rest of the summer. And it was probably like June, so I couldn't have people over the rest of the summer to swim. Yes, my parents definitely were old school parents. There was no. And that was a disaster. The skinny dipping party, it didn't go well.
Now, see, skinny dipping party, that is only thing that is amazing, right? Like, that is. So I'm really interesting about new rules for that, because I never had a pool party when I was younger, but I can imagine now I guess when I look at these rules for 50, like the new rules for 50, I'm thinking of it as things that the new rules for your kids over 50. Yeah. Like, I love how you start off talking about how we're not our parents' 50. I totally agree with that.
Girls couldn't come in my room. They couldn't come upstairs. Mm-hmm. They couldn't come upstairs. There was no need. They could never come upstairs.
Now, that's very different a lot of times from the way the kids now. But with your parents, when you were growing up, did you think that was like draconian, that you couldn't have kids?
My parents.
Now, what about some of your other suburban friends, Caucasian friends. I'm thinking they might.
They could.
And now, are we making a generalization and saying that? I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to sound racist.
I'm not generalizing, but
you're the specialist on white suburbia here.
So in white suburbia, I could definitely tell you that I could not have girls could not come up the stairs at all.
Right.
And so they, I mean, it was a known rule. They said it. I tried it. There was no need, but I could go. I remember going to other girls' houses, and you could go in their room, and I'm like, "Wow, I'm upstairs in your room." I'm like, "This is unbelievable."
Yeah.
So those rules were already there. As I got older, when you go to college, I remember bringing a girl home from college, and my girlfriend from college, and my mother said before she even came, she said, "I don't care what you all do at." In school, but here only people who stay in the same room together are married people, and you're not married. And she stayed in my old room, and I stayed in my brother's room.
That's interesting.
And I think I don't think my mother slept the entire weekend. There was nothing.
That's because she knew who her son was, or what?
Completely.
Or did she just,
she wasn't playing it.
Okay.
My father probably was like whatever. My mother at this point was definitely making sure there was nothing going on in that house.
Wow. I can definitely say that in my youth, in high school, I know because we're talking about that, I was thinking about this kind of rules then versus rules now, right?
Right.
And I, unlike you, I did not have a single female over to my house at any point during high school. I did not remember. I do not remember ever sneaking a girl in. I don't remember, saying my girlfriend coming through the crib. But my high school and some of my friends' high schools were very far apart, so it wasn't like we were all just coming home on the same bus and y'all can stop through my place, etc.
No.
So I think it was more just by where I lived and where most of my friends lived that nobody came over to my crib, at least
So
and I was a latchkey kid too, so I could have been wilding.
I wasn't a latchkey. My mom went to work. I think when high school came, she went to work because she went back to school when I was in middle school. Mm-hmm. So when high school, then she went to work. So when she went to work in high school is when the debauchery began. Because my dad, and I remember.
Wait a minute, you mean the housekeeper didn't see? Did you have an Alice? That's the only thing I didn't ask. Did you have a housekeeper?
We did, but she only came on the weekends.
I was just joking. You had a housekeeper?
Yeah, Vera.
Okay, all right.
And Vera cleaned my house, my grandparents' house, and my great grandparents' house.
Okay.
So it was so she would come on Saturdays, but during the week. I remember. Well, in fact, this was a weekend in summertime, so I don't know where she was, but it was interesting. My dad would come home, and a typical dad. My mom worked evenings, so the things that fathers allow, the things that mothers allow,
is definitely very different.
He didn't really pay attention.
But what about today? If you fast forward, you were thinking of just talking about how things were for you and things now. So for instance, I think of rules that were absolutely hard, absolutely in stone for me growing up. Okay. Like rule number 1, Jason, you are the dishwasher. Just be clear on that. Yeah. Growing up, we didn't. If there was a dishwasher, if it operated, I did not know that. I wish I would have even tried to open up the dishwasher. People would have looked at me. Both of my parents, even though they divorced separately in 2 different households, would have both looked at me like I was plumb crazy. I am the dishwasher. I developed a hatred of washing dishes because of that. Okay. And now I think, but what I'm tripping on is my kids now, I failed to be hardcore on that rule with my kids. So I'm softer on them, and I'm just mad at myself.
I think I'm the same as I was. I'm not as hard as my parents were. But the dishwasher, you couldn't go to bed without loading the dishwasher. There was no dirty dishes, emptying the trash. But when my son lived with me, he had definite rules. Rules like things, you know. But as he got older and he came back to live with me, the rules had definitely changed.
Right.
It was things that my parents would have never allowed.
Never allowed.
I mean, even the language, things, conversations, which I think are good. I think
Well,
some
I
things
mean,
are
when
good.
we were growing up, though, too, one rule that affected us was turn the TV off. Like you might have heard, or maybe your parents didn't. I mean, it was turn the TV off, and then sometimes I would see like HBO would be on. I'd see it'd be like a rated R movie, like Risky Business or Fast Times at Ridgemont, and I'd be like trying to see that or whatever. My parents would be like, "Go to bed, turn the TV off, and go to bed."
Me and my next door neighbor used to come home, and so I think it was Cinemax used to show rated R movies at like 2 or 3 o'clock. And we used to watch and we neither one of us had it Cinemax, but we would watch the fuzzy version of it.
And you'd be looking through. I'd be listening for sounds like if they were thinking, I'd be like, wait a minute, what are they doing?
And like now, kids
looking through the fuzz.
And now kids have phones.
Oh my
so
God.
You don't
high
even,
definition.
They have their own phones. So what are you gonna do? There's no.
So,
radar.
but shouldn't there be rules about that too? Like I find it very difficult to micromanage the technology. I'm just serious, honestly. Like. I really want to say, turn that phone off, and I know there's technology where I could just be hardcore and just turn that thing off at like 8 o'clock, whatever. But I kind of feel like you almost feel like their phone is like their lifeline or something that you need them to have.
At a certain age, when they're at home, their phone should go off because one, you don't want them.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at a 13-year-old at 9 o'clock, their phone should go off. They're at home.
Right.
So unless you're out, then the phone is, because you want to reach them. But if you think back, if we were out at 14 years old, your parents, they just trusted where you were.
I mean, the only thing I was doing at 14 was I was either on the Metro bus or the Metro rail at 14. That was all I was really doing. And, one thing I also want to talk about, this is a rule I just want to talk about now real quick, is cutting grass and yard work. Like I had to do yard work without fail. The yard was my thing right there with dishes. My find like these days, most of these kids, people that have lawns, they're not cutting their lawn. Somebody else is coming to cut the lawn. I feel some type of way about that. Teenagers should cut the grass.
I was literally a slave.
Absolutely.
Because
I believe in child slavery.
I did.
I'm mad that my kids are free.
So you have to realize I'm from Ohio and I live in the snow belt. So we had to shovel snow. And I remember when we finally got a snowblower, because my father was like, I have the two of you. I have 2 boys. I don't need a snowblower. And my mother convinced him to buy a snowblower.
Right.
Finally. And it would be, but other than that, I'm
going to tell you what, there's so many rule differences from cutting the grass to doing the dishes. But I tell you what,
everything.
We asked our people a poll question, right? What are we going to talk about when we come back?
Well, Carmen is going to come back with our poll answers. We have over 100 people who answered our poll question. And also you're going to hear Jason and I's answer to this poll question as well. So when we come back, we'll have Carmen. You'll have the 811 crew with our opinion as well. Look forward to seeing you guys in 2 minutes.
I still want that brother to learn how to cut grass, but.
And we're back. And we're back with Carmen. We have Carmen here who's going to release the poll results.
Yeah, what are people talking about?
What are people talking about?
Tell us what the people are thinking.
Well, I had my ear to the streets.
Okay.
And this is what the streets had to say.
Okay.
I think you guys are going to be shocked.
No,
honestly.
come on. I'm not
I honestly think you are. So, for the question, would you let your kids share a bedroom with their significant other? 62% said yes. 38% said no. And
really?
I knew you guys were going to be shocked.
I shocked.
I wonder what the age group is.
I know. We need to have something that says you have to check your age to be able to reply. I don't know.
I think
well, what is your answers? What are your...
Carmen, first of all, any of your friends respond to the poll question? That's all. I'm just asking for a friend.
Wow. Mine would... The thing with me, my answer would be I wouldn't want to hear my son or daughter in the room next to me having adult
Relations.
No.
So I think that would be that would kind of weird me out, and I don't think they would want to hear me as well.
Yeah.
So
I think our kids are more respectful than that, honestly. I mean, I feel like no matter what, if you're a kid, you are like, if you know the parents in the crib, you like, you ain't all loud. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you, I don't know.
I don't know if it's just the fact you go in the room. Okay, well, it's bedtime, and everyone closes the door and they go to bed. You're like, this is interesting. I mean, if you're 60 years old, you're probably not really doing it every day. But if you're like 20, 19,
right? It's prime time.
It's prime time.
Now, see, I feel like so this is what happened. I indicated earlier. My son came home recently. His girlfriend was with us. A wonderful young lady, and the rule was that they slept in separate rooms.
Right.
So his girlfriend had his bedroom.
Right.
Okay. And Jacob we have a really big sofa out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've slept on that sofa more nights than in the bed, probably falling asleep out there, right? So we put that together. We had all that. So he was comfortable. She was comfortable. I was comfortable when I went to my bedroom and went to sleep. And I got to say that I trust that probably nothing happened. I'm just going to tell myself that. But when I left the scene, they were sitting on the sofa eating popcorn and having great conversation.
Under a blanket?
No, they were. There was a blanket there.
Right.
But they weren't under it at that point.
Right.
There you go.
They're, I'm telling you.
And
smart.
the rest is their business.
I can tell you there was always a blanket. My parents would be there. Like, the blanket was there. I was fully.
But definitely not high school. But let's just be clear. Definitely not high school. Definitely not high school.
High school.
Now, what did your parents do, Carmen? I mean, wait a minute now. What do
you mean? What do you mean? What did my parents do? I'm from Texas.
You trying to say you never had nobody?
The
was
deep
over
South.
The nobody was over.
Oh,
there.
no.
Ain't
The
no
South
dudes.
South.
No way.
What do you mean?
Nobody was up there.
I have 3 older brothers
Oh,
and
no.
a daddy.
Okay.
Oh, no, there was no.
What do you mean?
So
there
we've
was
been
no.
100% no in
No,
your
oh.
family.
Hell no. What do you mean?
See, we need more
We need
southern
Southern.
values.
Can I just
here.
tell y'all that I was on the phone with my boyfriend, and my brother got on the phone and was like, "Stop calling my house."
That's right.
And then I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Carmen, tell these little boys stop calling my mama house." I was
Wow.
like, "This is intense."
Wow.
Wait, this is a house phone?
Yeah.
Now see,
Wait a
one of the
minute,
new
how-
rules. Now see, wait a minute. Your phone was in your room?
No.
Okay, good. I was about to say, because that is something. That's the one new rule I just want to say real quick is when we were growing up, the main phone time was while I was doing the dishes. There was this old phone cord.
Oh, the long cord.
Anybody
Yeah.
47 and older remembers the long little
Oh,
curly
yeah, yeah,
cord,
yeah. Ooh, the one that
and the
bounced
one
back.
that was on the phone that was on the wall in the kitchen.
On the wall.
You could take that thing all the way across to the dining room if you needed to, and that thing would curl back up.
Oh.
So that was my time on the phone while doing the kids. It was a win-win in that aspect because I certainly wasn't going to my room to have no conversation, even when the cordless phone came out, even when the 900 megahertz jump came out.
We didn't have a phone in our room. We had 2 phone lines in the house because my father felt that because my mother would be on the phone and she wouldn't click over for his business calls.
Oh, right.
So he got another phone line. So me being the smart person I am, I was like, and it was right across from my brother and I's room. I went and bought one of those extra long cords.
Right.
So I had so the phone went in my brother's room
To
and
your room, right.
And so we could talk, but we did not. It wasn't our phone. But
Right.
what happened? My mother was like, "Have your friends call on this line because this is mine." So my father, brother, and I shared a phone line.
But your mom had her own line.
She
Don't
had her
mess
own
with
line.
my
But
You know what that is? Pimping. That's
Right.
what that is.
which wasn't easy and still ain't. But can I just say one thing here? That one thing you made me think of with this phone line. I got to go to something else. New rules versus old rules. Back in the day, you had that call waiting, right? You had
Oh, yeah,
call
call
waiting.
waiting.
And the
Call waiting.
best thing ever was *70. You could do
Star
*70.
70?
*70 was where you deactivated the call waiting. So I would go over my grandmother's house.
Oh, you were living wild.
I was
you
at
were
my
the
grandmother's
edge.
house, and I would.
You-
So no, not at my parents' crib. When I go to
What?
my grandmother's house, who loved me to death, I could be on their phone all day. I mean, they were like in their 70s.
Yeah.
Nobody was calling them, and they were
Oh, my
in
God.
their 70s back in the 70s or 80s. They were like they
Right.
weren't on the phone. So I would *70 that joint, and all their friends for hours would be like,
For real?
Yes.
They didn't do remember the emergency breakthroughs? With the
Oh boy, that's a whole
Oh,
other thing. The emergency
Carmen-
breakthrough was crazy.
No, I don't know about that, but you were living a wild life. Just an FYI,
Excuse me?
that was a.
I had my grandparents' love, though. God rest their soul.
Amen. I mean,
But the emergency.
you wasn't scared of yours. I was scared of mine.
Oh no,
I
they
wasn't-
didn't know what they didn't know didn't hurt them.
Okay.
Until their other old friends were like, "Why can't I get through on your line?" But you know,
But they were used to busy. Like older people were used to busy, but
Right.
they would break through. So even if I was on the main house line, if my mother's friends or parents' friends called, I was to get off the phone
immediately
for their friends.
Right.
And they're like, no, you don't pay any bills here.
Right.
So you have to get off the phone. Like, do not, if my friends call, and I'm like,
See, that should be a real recurring theme. Like, if you don't pay bills,
If you don't pay
should
bills,
have
right.
absolutely no power. But somehow that does not work. Still in the new rules. In
Oh,
my
no,
old
no,
rules,
no.
Well, what are these new rules? We talked about all these conversations. What are these new rules for your kids?
new rules, first of all, new rules, you can't beat kids in public.
Oh, you can't even beat them in private, or they
the
might be like,
first
"I'll call
one.
911 on you" or something like that.
You
Crazy.
cannot
You can't do that.
You cannot spank a kid in Walmart. You hit
Right.
a kid. You spank your kid in Walmart. Everyone's looking at you, and you're going to jail.
Right.
No matter what, your kid can fall out, do everything.
Right, which is
You cannot
crazy.
do it. You cannot do it.
Meanwhile, my parents used to be able to look at me a certain way, and I'd be like, "Oh, no, this is going to
Yeah.
be ugly." The moment no one's watching, it's going to be them switch
It
in
doesn't
my
matter if someone's- It
behind.
doesn't matter if someone's watching or not.
Right.
But
Exactly.
It was. But the things have changed.
Now, even now, like one new rule is you can pay for your kid's cell phone and still not be able to tell them when to turn it off.
You can
I
turn
mean,
it
like,
off, but-
maybe I'm just a softy on that. I gotta be stronger. I gotta be like, no, I just gotta turn it off.
But I am glad we got a good poll of 100 people, which is interesting. 60, I think you said
68% said yes.
62 said yes.
62%. So so maybe I am old school. Maybe maybe I probably given the opportunity.
Would you let him do it? Would you let him do
I
it?
probably wouldn't be as strong as my parents were.
No, I would not be as strong as
my
parents. And
were,
I
yeah.
gotta tell you, over the break, I really gotta think about it. You said 68% said yes.
62 said yes.
Audience,
That's
y'all
high.
are kind of
That's
tripping
high.
a little bit,
That's
but I'm gonna
high.
think about
Okay.
that on the
All
break.
right.
811 Crew Podcast. We're gonna talk more about the rules and other things, but we'll be back in just a few.
We'll be back. Peace. We're back. 811 Crew is back. But you know what? I have told a lot of things about me being caught as a child. So Jason, you ever get caught as a child by your parents?
I cannot tell a lie on this one, Ulysses. I was never caught with a girl or whatever at my house when they weren't supposed to be, because in general, I'm a rule follower. I never had another young lady illegally or without notice or permission over at my parents' houses. Never did it.
Seriously?
That's a fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go relive my between 13 and 18 over. I need to leave those live because definitely I remember even taking pictures
Oh, wait a
on
minute.
a camera.
Oh, wow.
And my father used to get the film.
Develop.
So the pictures, he's looking
You
like.
told him it was anatomy class.
No, they weren't naked pictures. They weren't
Oh.
naked, but they were in the house, and my parents weren't home, and there was girls, my friends,
Wow.
everything. So he saw. So, so my parents. Probably if I went home now, they're not gonna. My mom's not gonna go out of town and leave me at the house.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I had. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And you know
I
what?
can see it.
I gotta say, shout out on my phone on text. One of our viewers, a friend of mine, responded and said she felt like and then the notion of the question of can people stay home or be your girlfriend in the room. She said at 17, no, but she said on vacation at 20, then yes, they could share a room. I'm like, wait a minute, on vacation in Cancun, you think I'm gonna get my daughter and her boyfriend their own room? Hell no.
No.
Absolutely
No,
not. I'm like, wow.
Actually,
and then the person is our age who said that. I can't believe that.
I'm going to tell you something. I remember I was 17.
Granted, she don't have a daughter.
I was 17 going, it was senior skip day. We would go to Cedar Point. So we would drive to Cedar Point, which was 90 minutes away. So I remember asking my father, like, hey, I need money to go to Cedar Point. And he gave me money. I said, well, I need money for my girlfriend. It was after prom. And I'm not going to use the exact words he used, but he said, I can't pay for you. He said, I have a child. I can't pay for your girlfriend to go to Cedar Point.
Right.
If you want her, and that's not the term he used. So luckily my mother was there who gave me money, but it's an interesting time period. So no, my parents would never have paid for them to go on vacation at all. They wouldn't have gone.
Wow.
They just wouldn't have gone.
Wow.
But moving on to our new topic,
right,
which is going to be dating after the age of 50.
Yeah. So you're saying that we've covered. So the last episode we covered the kids, the rules, like house rules. But you're saying now we need to talk about what are our rules, adult rules. How are we rolling?
So adult rules. So as an adult, after you're 50, do you have do you refer to the person as your boyfriend? Do you refer to her as your girlfriend? What is is boyfriend?
These are critical questions. Like, what's the difference between a girlfriend, wifey, wife? Like, what does all that mean? Zaddy, that's a new one. I'm still not sure.
I prefer to be called Zaddy.
Oh, Zaddy.
Yeah.
I've never been. I'm trying to think if I've been called Zaddy. I don't think I've been called. I'm still not sure what a Zaddy is. We're gonna have to go through some of those definitions.
You're gonna have to go. You need to go. You should get Urban Dictionary on your phone.
Okay, I will. I'll be like, hey Google, as soon as we get off.
No, this Urban Dictionary tells you everything.
Okay.
So Zaddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so.
I should keep a running list of things that you tell me.
So you can be cool.
Cooler.
But as you're like, well, you say you introduce. This is my girlfriend because I have a girlfriend. So I say, well, this is my girlfriend. I'm not. What else would you say? This is my friend, my buddy, whatever. But I do know, I have heard from a lot of my female friends who have been in relationships, they have a problem with being referred to as a girlfriend at age 50.
But you know what? These labels and terms and definitions, etc., we're going to get into that on the next episode. I've learned a lot on this. I mean, I'm still stuck on the 68% that people would let their kids be in the room. I don't know about all that. My answer would still be no, but
mine's kind of up in the air. But that's because I like to be called Zaddy. So,
I hear you. Well,
so
I ain't gonna lie. I'm glad to get off this topic about the children. And on the next episode, let's get into like what the rules are as adults, right? Thanks a lot, y'all. 811 crew. This has been fun.
This has been a great episode.
We're going to keep learning, keep growing, and keep discussing these things. But for now, we are out.
We're out. Slugger Zaddy is out.
Zaddy.
Peace.
Let's go. Pick your feet up, though. Let's go. Pick your feet up, though.